I will tell you a story from Yoga Vasistha. This is the story of King Bhagiratha. In ancient times, there lived on earth a Vedic and righteous king who practiced spiritual disciplines. His name was Bhagirath. Once he was overcome by disappointment in the thinking and lifestyle he was leading. He realized that his life was meaningless. Then he went to his guru, who was called Tritala. He began asking him questions about how one could put an end to old age, death, delusions, rebirths, all this samsara, as he was already tired of it. There comes such a moment when we begin to ask ourselves questions. What is the meaning of life? What is the spirit? How to stop suffering? The cycle of birth and death. We seek our guru, our master. In our search, we should not stop at some concepts because we want to obtain true liberation. Therefore, we ask these questions with devotion and sincerity. We seek answers to them. This is the moment when we embark on the path of the sadhu. Now you are approximately at such a point in your life. This is a very important point from which your spiritual path begins. The path to a new life, to a new vision of the world, the path to transformation, to seeking and finding God. Once I was also at such a point. I was in a state of searching from childhood for many years, and eventually this search led me to leave my worldly life, become a monk, and retreat, in order to get all the answers to the questions that troubled me. I do not regret at all that I acted this way, because I received not just answers, but I became a different being. I did not become some deity. I simply became a sadhu, a person who walks the spiritual path, the path of knowing God. And I am very happy. There is nothing more beautiful than the path of the sadhu, because the path of the sadhu is the path of truth, the path of spiritual self-knowledge, knowledge of God. A sadhu is the same person. He also walks, eats, sleeps, but he differs from ordinary people. A sadhu has his own thinking, his own culture, his own ethics, his own values, goals, and meanings in life. The entire life of a sadhu is aimed at knowing God. A sadhu is one who thinks about God, serves God, knows God, meditates on God. A sadhu can be compared to a professional spiritual seeker. He is not a simple amateur. He subordinates his entire life to the search for divine truth. It doesn't matter whether he is a monk or a lay person. He is a sadhu. For him, God and the search for divine truth become the most important things in life. A sadhu is one who does not live by the values of consumer, materially egoistic culture, but lives precisely in the culture of the sadhu, the culture of spiritual search, the culture of seeking the divine. If you go to India, you will see millions of people who also follow this culture. This is a very great and ancient culture, and its name is Vedic culture. Now is such a time when Vedic culture goes beyond the borders of India and spreads throughout the world. I am deeply convinced that the most important thing in life is to become a sadhu, because if you have become a sadhu, the path of God realization opens for you. You can know God and become a being of the next order, one who is called a jnani. There exists a certain evolution of man in this direction, a hierarchy of development of living beings and man on the path to God. First, an ordinary person becomes a spiritual seeker, a sadhu. If a sadhu conducts sadhana, practices, he becomes a jnani, one who has known the Absolute, known God, one who has identified with God. If a jnani reaches perfection, his energy reaches wholeness and fullness, he becomes perfect, one who is called a siddha. A siddha, a perfect person, means that he is free from samsara, from the law of karma. He is one with God and can live independently in this world, being completely free. The greatest Siddhas in the history of the Vedic tradition were Matsyendranath, Goraknath. The great Siddha of our time is our Guru, Sri Guru Brahmananda Avadut. We can also recall many Siddhas of the Buddhist tradition, such as Milarepa, Naropa, Tilopa. Such siddhas exist in all religions. It can be said that this is the next stage of evolution for every person. This is our future. God people who have fully revealed their divine potential. The light of their soul indicates the path where we ourselves should direct our steps, where to go. This is the path that every living being follows, multi-consciously and multidimensionally, regardless of its confessional or cultural affiliation. When a siddha goes even higher on the path of evolution, he becomes a deity, a deva. Gods, unlike people, do not live on earth and do not live in the material universe. In space, they live in another dimension of consciousness. Such a dimension of consciousness we call mandala in the teaching. The bodies of devas consist of light. They are one with the absolute. Time and cause and effect relationships do not control their consciousness. They do not act like people. Therefore, gods in some sense do not live like people. They play. They are in a state of lila, divine play. For them, there are no concepts of death, limitations, karma, time, and space. They live in their own universes, where by the power of consciousness they create worlds and live in them. When such a deity goes further on the path of evolution, it becomes a Mahadeva, a great deity. From Vedic mythology and history we know, there are such Mahadevas as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Bhagavan Dattatreya. All of them are great divine cosmic forces, eternally free souls, identical with the Absolute. Each of us can walk these steps of evolution. Each of us can become a sadhu, jnani, siddha, deva, mahadeva, because this divine potential in us is the same as in siddhas and gods. But unlike divine beings, saints, jnanis, and siddhas, our potential is not revealed. It is deeply hidden inside. And the meaning of our life is to reveal this potential. The teacher sometimes calls this potential the nature of mind, sometimes sahaja, natural state, sometimes atman, sometimes Bhagavan Dattatreya. This potential is beyond name, beyond form. To reach it, we need to enter samadhi. Why is samadhi needed? Because this potential is deeply hidden in us. We need to pierce through the dual state, the state of sleep with dreams, and the state of sleep without dreams with the power of our concentration and meditation. Traditionally, these three states are called Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. Behind these three lies the fourth state, Turiya. There this divine potential is located. This potential is like a magical precious stone, Chintamani, which fulfills desires. When we reveal this fourth state, we discover our complete identity with God. It contains various powers that help us get rid of karma, because with our human powers we cannot do this, because karma controls us very rigidly. This potential possesses enormous powers, such as the power of divine wisdom, Jnana Shakti, the power of divine freedom, Svatantriya Shakti, the power of divine will, Icha Shakti, the power of divine omnipotence, Aishvarya Shakti, the power of divine actions, Kriya Shakti. The place and position of each living being in the universal hierarchy is determined by how much the being has revealed its divine potential and can manifest these powers. Gods, unlike people, are not subject to the laws of karma and samsara. They are immortal. They can operate time and space because their power of wisdom, Jnana Shakti, and other powers are great. And we, people, live on earth. We are very limited because we have not opened this potential. We are severely limited by karma and the physical body. We are attached to earth and earthly life, forced to live here. We cannot freely travel in the universe because we are severely limited by the physical body. Because we cannot think like gods, our goals and meanings in life are very narrow. People live by material needs and culture and consider this something important. But a sadhu is one who has decided to begin spiritual search and walk the divine path, one who has decided to get rid of the slavery and limitations of samsara, to throw off the shackles of his soul. A sadhu seeks freedom not for the ego. The freedom of a sadhu is the rejection of ego. The freedom that is promoted by consumer society is illusory freedom. Freedom for the ego is the satisfaction of material needs, whims of mind and body. In fact, this is not true freedom because ego itself is a limitation. It is precisely what closes the road to discovering true divine potential. This is like a program built into our consciousness that constantly limits the possibilities of perception and slows down the speed of thinking. For some reason, we still rely on this program and trust it. We are used to living this way. In the culture of the sadhu, there is a whole algorithm of how to get rid of this ego. This algorithm consists of three concepts: vichara, viveka, and vairagya. Perhaps these Sanskrit terms mean nothing to you now, but if you become a sadhu, for the next 300 years, these concepts will accompany you, because the entire life of a sadhu revolves around these three concepts. On the path of the sadhu, we investigate our consciousness, asking the question, what is the nature of my I? Such investigation leads to investigation of God within, and this reflection is called vichara. Viveka means that a subtle, intuitive understanding arises in us, more capable of distinguishing subtle consciousness from the body, from energy from the subtle body. And vairagya is the result when we find consciousness independent of the physical and subtle body, from the material world, that state when we can exist independently of time, space, and the elements of the universe.